Welcome to the City of Bakersfield Planning Commission meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 10 a.m. The agenda for this meeting can be downloaded at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, Chair Daniel Cater.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to call to order the September 1st, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Cater.
Here.
Vice Chair Bashir Tash.
Here.
Commissioner Wade.
Here.
Commissioner Lomas.
Here.
Commissioner Neal. Commissioner Biddle.
Here.
Commissioner Komen.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for attending tonight's Planning Commission meeting. This commission provides an opportunity for public participation in the development process throughout the City of Bakersfield. The Planning Commission considers a wide variety of projects, including subdivision maps, zone changes, general plan amendments, and much more. When the applications are received, the City Planning Division analyzes the request. Planning staff will present the facts about the project along with their recommendation to the Planning Commission, who will approve the item or make a recommendation as appropriate. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 3A. Agenda item public statements.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the commission regarding items listed on tonight's agenda? Seeing no public statements on items on tonight's agenda, does anyone in the audience wish to address the commission regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item number 4, consent calendar items.
All matters listed under the consent items do not require a public hearing and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of said item unless staff or a commissioner requests specific items be discussed and/or removed for separate action. May I get a motion to adopt, or may a motion approving the consent items?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Commissioner Biddle, do I have a second?
A second.
Commissioner Bashir Tash. Commissioners, please cast your votes digitally, I believe.
Motion is approved with Commissioner Neal absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item number 5, consent public hearings.
Now is the time for consent public hearings. If the item is not removed by a commissioner, staff, or member of the public, the commission will vote on all items in one motion without further comment. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the non-consent public hearing items. At this time, I will open all of the consent public hearing items. Does any member of the public wish to remove a consent public hearing item? Seeing no members of the public wishing to move a consent public hearing item for separate consideration, does any commissioner or staff wish to remove a consent public hearing item? Okay. Seeing no staff or commissioner wishing to remove an item, at this time, the consent public hearing items not removed, which are all items tonight, items 5A through 5E, are now closed. May I get a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on the consent public hearing items 5A through 5E, incorporating all staff memoranda and revised staff recommendations?
I'd like to make a motion to approve what you said.
Thank you. Commissioner Komen, may I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bashir Tesh. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Just waiting on Biddle. Motion is approved with Commissioner Neal absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
There are no non-consent public hearing items.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item number 7, workshops.
Mr. Johnson, would you please provide us with the workshop item?
Yes, good evening, commissioners, members of the audience. This is going to be a high-level workshop on our online permitting process, or e-permits. This was something that's been in the works for about 3 years now as we go through how it incorporates into our existing systems, and it actually went live 1 month ago from today, August 1st. You can't go forward until you know how or where you come from. So let me explain a little bit how we used to process projects. When an application was submitted over the counter, it was all digital copies, large sheets of paper, usually 2 foot by 3 foot plans were submitted, and the fees were paid. It then went to one of our clerks, who established a case file, and then that was put on the supervisor's desk for an initial review for completeness. And that would take 2 to 3 days, depending on the workload and everything. If it was incomplete, the applicant would be advised what was needed to make the necessary corrections. Those revisions would be made, and then the applicant would resubmit it. Once it was deemed complete, the supervisor would assign it to a planner. The planner would then consolidate all the documents and make all the necessary stamps and send it to our site plan review committee, which consists of the 7 or 8 different departments that you see on the right-hand side there. Once those departments each looked at the comments, and again, since these were paper copies, they would have to come to the planning department, and so sometimes they'd come once a week or twice a week. They make their comments, and then that would go back to the planner, who would consolidate those comments, prepare a letter. That letter would then go back to the clerk, who would correct it for grammatics, and then it would go to the supervisor for review. It would then come to the planning director for signature, and then it would be sent to the applicant. And the goal for that time frame was about 30 days, and depending on workload or the complexity of the project, oftentimes that took a little bit longer. So to meet county's goal of expediting projects and streamlining the process, again, about 3 years ago, 2019, late 2019, we went under contract with Evolve. And from their website, they are a proven e-plan review for the building, planning, engineering, basically our site plan review committee. Some of the key features that they offer are file and makeup management. So files are uploaded online, and once they're uploaded online, then everything is digital. Once that comes through city staff, what we do is we can assign it to certain site plan review committee members that need to review it. We'll assign it to planners, and then we assign dates with that. And you'll receive auto emails, or they will receive automatic emails saying, look, you have 2 weeks to complete this. You have 1 more day to complete this. It's due today, and then it's past due. And again, with that, the applicant will also receive emails if there was something missing. So if they submit and they didn't pay the fees, they'll get an automatically email saying you need to pay fees. Or if there's something missing in the document, the planner will make a comment, and they'll get that almost instantaneous. It'll provide faster feedback to the applicants, as I mentioned, because it's all digital now. We don't have to, write a letter or email a letter. The review status, everybody will know where it's at from any city staff that's involved or the applicant. All they have to do is pull up their project number online, and they'll find out where the project is in the review status. They'll find out who has reviewed, who has not reviewed. And again, that kind of comes into the full accountability. We'll know where our potential challenges may be, of where we need to focus some efforts to speed up review process. With that also, oftentimes we'll get an applicant or developer that will say, well, I submitted the plan 6 months ago, when in reality, we've reviewed those plans and it's been with the applicant for changes for 4 of those 6 months, so it's not a fair, accurate assessment. However, again, this will allow us to see where the city may be falling short, and then we can make those corrections. 2 of the main positives for this, and I'm just going to really focus on one, is a quick step-through way to zoom to and compare the prior markup versions of new corrected drawings. And so when drawings are submitted, they'll get back, the applicant will get back, are changes that are done in PDF. Initially, under the old way, changes were handwritten. Hopefully they were legible. There was markings all over the plans, and now everything, and I'll show you a photo here in a moment, everything is going to be all digital. So everything's typed in. And once changes are resubmitted, what this system allows it to do is take the original plan along with the corrections and overlay it, and we can see what changes were made. But what it also does, we can see if any additional changes were made that weren't pointed out. So for instance, we've had times where we've said, show the nearest fire hydrant. That's the only thing that's left on the plans. And they'll submit plans showing where the nearest fire hydrant is, but also in the meantime, they've adjusted the size of a building, which impacted the parking calculations. And staff has to go back and relook at all those things. This will be a quick overview, or not overview, an overlay, and we can identify almost instantaneous if additional changes were made. Again, going paperless, anytime online submissions, so you don't have to wait for the planning or the building offices to be open Monday through Friday. You can submit weekends, you can submit after hours, you can submit anytime you'd like. No more paper storage. And I got some photos. Some of the offices, we used to have paper everywhere, and it was difficult to find where plans were. Lobby traffic, this should reduce the amount of lobby traffic because everybody is now corresponding and doing the work online. And so those folks that in the lobby that we're actually helping that may have a question on something rather than a plan question. Supports teleworking. It's not that we work from home, we're customer service, so we're here. But should there be another pandemic, we would be allowed to work from home in this case. Instead of plans sitting on the shelf for 48 hours, to get clean, it's all, we can continue working, and there should be really no hiccup in that. And again, mobile access, so you can see the status of your plans or review anything pretty much anytime. So again, here's some of the big sheets that we used to mark up, and there would be different colors, and sometimes legible, sometimes not. And Chair Cater, you've seen plenty of these plans, and a lot of times we'll have to go over it with the developer to make sure everybody's clear on what's needed. And so now everything will be done online. We can cloud out, the corrections that need to be made, and we can add a note. Different departments will use different colors. So instance, like the green could be planning, and we're gonna say, add additional landscape trees in this area. You need to add 3 more trees. The blue could be public works, where you need to add curb, gutter, and sidewalk to this area. And then the developer can click just to see public works comments, see all comments if it's too busy. If it's too busy with all comments, they can click and just see individual department comments, so that way they know what they're looking at and looking for. And again, this is the office on the upper right, is actually sitting in the audience right now. And then you can see some of our file cabinets, or not file, but our filing plans that we're waiting for review. And it gets busy when you're dealing with all these paper sheets. Now, we can have clean desks, we can work. And again, I think one of the biggest things that's gonna be a benefit is the amount of time that people actually have to wait in line or not wait in line anymore. And our assistance can be more direct towards people that really need assistance. We will have, as we get through the challenge of getting everybody up to speed, developers and staff on using the system, We will be having workstations out there where we can help people walk through submitting online, but we are now pushing everything, except for a few projects, to be submitted online. And before I open it up to questions, again, just a real high-level workshop. I'm not trying to market the project or the product because we have already implemented it. But if you are curious and need a little bit more detail, let me know and we can set up some in-person meetings and I can walk you actually through the whole system. I would gladly do that. And again, this completes my presentation.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Commissioner Cater. So is this intended to be a like cradle to grave kind of thing? So this thing would come in as an application. It would go through the planning process. Building department would comment on it. Fire department would comment on it. And then would it survive planning department? Would that then go to the building department once permits were issued? And would all the inspections be documented in there? And so at the end of the project, we would have a complete record of everything that went on with that project?
Yes, thank you for that question. So there is a small change on how we do it now. On some of our resubmittals, you can submit to building. After it's gone through planning and you've seen the corrections, you can submit to building, and then they'll provide a backup copy to planning and that we will back check. And so they're going down kind of parallel lines. And oftentimes the site plan is not still up to standard and there's still corrections that need to be made while building is reviewing the footprint, let's just say, and they find it acceptable. But then solid waste will say, well, you need to move the trash enclosure that then impacts the building footprint. And so you have a possibility of what building reviewed, they need to go back and re-review it. So under this evolve process, you're going to go through planning and the site plan is going to be final. And when you're done with that, you won't be back to planning at all. Your next submittal, we'll stamp the plans and say, this is what it's going to be, what it's going to look like. That will then be submitted over to building, and building will look at the structural and everything that way. And then they will be able to use this going forward out into the field for inspections and such. And then it'll have one complete record, and that will, once it's final, certificate of occupancy or whatnot, it'll be saved on what we call our Laserfish file, and we'll have that record in perpetuity.
So when you say stamping, it's a virtual stamp.
It is a virtual stamp, which is one of the requirements, and again, maybe for Chair Cater, is that the upper right-hand corner remain vacant, or no writing or anything in the upper right-hand corner, about a 2-inch by 2-inch block, so that way it can be virtually stamped. Yes.
There's security protocols in place to keep that from limiting it to who can do that, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then when it goes to the building, because typically once planning department approves everything, it goes to the building department for actual permits to construct, right? I'm provided that all the site work's been done and all that kind of thing. So, you know, in the day, you would treasure this stamped set of documents that you could then go out and build your building, right? And you kept that, you know, under lock and key so that you didn't have any disputes later. Is this all going to become virtual? Is it going to be the inspectors are going to be out there with tablets and checking off this stuff? Is that the intent?
Eventually, that is the intent. So the plans will all be on an iPad, we'll say, and if there's a dispute out on the field, because I will assume that some developers will want the printed sheets for their contractors to look at, but we will have an iPad that an inspector can say, look, no, here's the stamped approval, here's the way it should be. I don't know how the printed sheets got revised. So ultimately, everything will be digital. Right now, we're really focused on grading permits, grading plans, conditional use permits, site plan reviews, over-counter permits, general plan amendments, zone changes. We will get to those down the road, but those really don't have a site plan review associated with those. But we just want to try to work through any flaws right now on a majority of permits before we implement everything.
Well, I'll just say from my standpoint, I'm historically opposed to technology, and change, mostly change. I don't deal well with change. But this sounds like a really good program. Seems like certainly the way we need to do things in the future. So thank you for sharing.
And again, the intent is to save valuable time and money to the developer, to city staff, and the general public.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Are there any other commissioners wishing to speak? I'll just say I have a lot of questions that pertain to using the program, but they are not really related to this commission or the members of the public. I would just say that in jurisdictions I've worked with that have gone digital, I think there's great accountability both from the public and from the different public agencies. I think being able to track changes in a way that is not cumbersome and requiring somebody to manually change out 200 sheets of paper on a front counter seems very beneficial. And so can I just clarify, so then it's only being implemented in some of the submittals, or is everything being submitted to planning right now a digital submittal?
The items that are not being digitally submitted to planning would be like land division,
Okay.
General plan amendment, zone changes. Everything else, anything that really involves a site plan review, which would be a conditional use permit, zoning modification, and like I said, over the counter, like home occupation permits or water heater change outs, those are all being submitted online.
It does. And then from the building department perspective, are all building, tenant improvement, things that don't go through the site plan process, those are all also digitally being submitted?
They're also, yeah, they're being digitally, as well as things that are current or have been currently in the process are basically like fact checks. Those are
Still prepared. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. No, I think it's a great step forward, and I think it's a great tool for our city. So thank you. And thank you for the presentation. With that, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item number 8, communications.
Does staff have any communications?
I do. Just a quick update on our general plan update. We have done the community outreach sessions. We are summarizing the results of those. You will be involved in some stakeholder meetings, so you will probably receive an email either from staff or from a consultant. We would request that you work and give of your time with that with the consultant. It'll probably be, it could be 15, 20 minutes of questions, but your input on that as a planning commissioner will be very important. And just to keep things on the forefront, there is a water bottle, not the water bottle, but yes, thank you. There's a water bottle, just so everybody's keeps that in their
I'll make a note that there was a water bottle in every photograph from the building department in the presentation. So
that's very good. Nice catch.
The
catch.
branding is running very deep of this effort because it is very important.
I did not think you would catch that. Good. I would also like to introduce Shannon Clark. He is representing the building department. Now he'll be with us. We will have a meeting September 15th. That's in 2 weeks. We have one item, obviously, a conditional use permit that's being continued to that meeting, and we'll have a couple other items. That's all I have.
Thank you, and welcome, Mr. Clark. Yep. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item number 9, commission comments.
Do any commissioners have any comments?
I would just like to thank Bakersfield College students from the criminal justice program that showed up tonight and becoming part of the civic process. Hopefully we'll see you after you graduate and you stay here locally. So thank you, girls.
Thank you. Welcome to the commission. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Seeing no other commissioner comments, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 10, adjournment.
This meeting is adjourned at 5:54. Have a great evening, everyone.